30 having arrived, I will call this finance and personnel meeting to order. It's not a very satisfying, but that's okay. So the first order of business after the call to order is the roll call. So
We gotta go, we
You're
are live
already
already, okay.
Yep.
All right, good.
You're
Okay. All right,
awesome.
you guys ready?
That'd be great. Please.
Alder Tad,
Here.
Alder West,
Here.
Alder P,
Here.
Alder Horton,
Here.
Alder Tate II.
Present.
That completes roll call.
Alrighty then. The next item would be the approval of the minutes for the October 24th, 2022 meeting.
I move to approve. Second.
Moved by Alder Pete, seconded by Alder West, who's closer to me. I did hear you on recording, but he just got in right before you. We get next time. So is there any moved and properly seconded? Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please, Director Fisher.
Item number 0817-22, communication sponsored by Alder Taft on behalf of the Finance Director to approve a resolution authorizing the sale and issuance of $14,510,000 of 2022 refunding bonds dated December 16th, 2022 to refund the 2022 note anticipation notes issued September 27th, 2022. Staff recommendation to approve a resolution authorizing the sale and issuance of $14,510,000 of 2022 refunding bonds dated December 16th, 2022 to refund the 2022 note anticipation notes issued September 27th, 2022. This is killing me. Fiscal note. No new money will be included in this issue. Payments due in the years 2023 through 2036. We have Brad McGoot, our investment advisor from RW Baird, here this evening to speak on the item.
Please proceed, sir.
All right, thank you. I'll walk through the presentation packet that was included in your agenda. Just by way of a timeline, with your authorization tonight, this will go in front of the council at the meeting next week, and that would be the final step that would lock in and finalize the interest rates on the refunding bond. We're well on our way of making preparations for this issuance. We've just about finalized the official statement. That's the disclosure document. We've got the Standard & Poor's bond rating locked in. We've actually started marketing this obligation to investors nationwide already, but the final marketing effort, the final pricing will take place next week, Tuesday. And then with council approval on Tuesday, the closing will take place December 16th, and this refunding bonds will be used to provide the long-term financing of the short-term note, which you authorized earlier this year, which, as a reminder, was issued to fund the capital improvement projects of the city and equipment acquisition of the city. So there's a detailed financing plan on the following page. Towards the center of the page, under the heading preliminary, you can see the allocation between the capital improvement project portion of this financing, which, it's extended over a 14-year repayment period. And the equipment portion is scheduled to be paid off in 2023. So that's the $3.87 million piece. Just to draw your attention towards the right-hand side of the page under the column that says combined debt service, that reflects the city's existing levy supported debt, this new issue, as well as a placeholder for future financings to fund capital projects of the city. So what I'd like to point out here is there's no increase in the debt service levy for 2023. It's paying the same. The city will be budgeting almost exactly the same that you did for 2022. We've penciled in a 5% increase going into 24, and then that increase smooths at about 2% thereafter. Of course, this will come back before you next year again for additional review and further consideration. But what we're asking for tonight is authorization to proceed with this refunding by adopting the resolution. I'd be glad to go into more detail or answer any questions.
I have several.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. A good presentation, but what is the interest rate? What you're shopping it around, but what interest rates are you looking at? That's the first part of the question. Second part, will they be locked in or will they be variable?
Sure. The current rate based on today's market is 4.44%. So that rate may change. It may go up or down before Tuesday, but once it's locked on Tuesday, it's fixed. It will not change over the entire repayment period of the note of the bond. Over that 14-year period, it'll be fixed. We do have what's called a call provision. That means at the city's option, you could prepay all or a portion
That
of
would
this
have been my
debt.
next question.
Yeah, so more than $5 million of this obligation is callable. So if we get to a better interest rate environment, you've got a lot of flexibility to prepay.
Okay. What is the difference in the cost to the city at the 4.4% versus where we are now? And I'm sure with confidence that you're shopping for the best rate
Yeah.
under the circumstances. But what is the difference? I'm sure a lot of people will want to know because they're not familiar with the interest rate environment, depending, I won't go into details, you know what I mean.
Yeah, so at the 4.44, the projected total payments of interest is going to be $4,088,000. And that's on a $14.5 million issue.
Which would be locked in.
Yes, that would be locked.
Okay, so the maximum that we would have to, that the city is obligated for is the figure that you just gave, the interest plus, and what's the, interest? The principal is there, so in interest,
Correct.
okay. Well, could you repeat that number?
Sure, it's estimated at $4,090,000
Okay,
for interest repayment. Now, again, this may change just a little bit between now and next Tuesday because the
sure,
market,
of course.
but it will be locked in on Tuesday and fixed.
Okay, so no matter what happens in the environment, whatever the Fed does and what, et cetera, we're locked in at the 4.4%.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Seeing none, a motion would be in order at this time.
Move to approve?
Second.
Moved by Alder Pete, seconded by Alder Horton. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. On
Item number 0830-22, communication sponsored by Alder Katz on behalf of the Department of City Development for review and approval of the 2023 operating plan for Business Improvement District Number 3 Uptown, and to authorize the finance director to place the assessments on the tax bill. Staff recommendation that the 2023 operating plan for the Uptown Business Improvement District be approved, and the finance director be authorized and directed to include the district special charge on the 2022 tax bills of the affected parcels. Fiscal note, it's estimated that $40,189.20 will be raised through bid assessments that will be placed in the Uptown Business Improvement District's revenue account. We have both Christina from Uptown, Nikki from Uptown, and Joanna from Uptown. I'm not sure which one of you would want to speak on the item. Christina, you want to go first and talk about how you're going to use the funds?
Sure, so we have that allocated for marketing.
Come on up,
Podium if
come
you
on
would.
up. We want to see
It's
you.
so the public can see.
Okay, so our marketing, we have 6,750 allocated for marketing. Streetscape is 18,000. That includes banners and the florals that we place along the streets. The grants that we give out to businesses coming in is at 23,000, and administration's at 250. Contract services at 7,000 for bid manager. And that is some of the broken up at this time.
Okay,
Anybody questions?
Alder Pete.
Yes, I'm thinking wearing the hat, if you will, of the constituent. When am I gonna be notified and how are you going to explain that to me as a taxpayer? The properties that will be affected.
That is a good question. So I guess if we have to send out a letter to each person like we did for our next meeting, or we can email it. We are working on getting a better contact list for all of our businesses in the neighborhood, so we can always send out an email. We are trying to do better about notifying for meetings and such, so if they want, it's posted on Instagram and Facebook, so if they want to come to any of the meetings and ask us any questions about anything, and we also email every month for our regular meetings.
So they will be notified through one of the channels as to why the information that you just shared with us. Okay,
yes, we can definitely send out.
Okay, because you can understand, I'm small business, barely making it, et cetera, and I see this tax bill, and I'm not gonna be the happiest person in the world.
I am one of them, I understand.
I thought you were.
Yeah, I know, my face looks a little different, but it's still me.
So does anybody else have any questions for? Yes, Alder Tate?
Not necessarily a question, but just a statement of clarity. The bid is made up of businesses in the district, so everyone who is weighing in on the determination of the assessment is also subject to those assessments. So this isn't like a group that is outside of those who are being impacted. Can you speak to, looks like the first time for a long time that the actual rate is changing? It's looking at $2 per thousand as opposed to the previous year. How that was determined, what the discussions look like, and can I just share what that process looked like?
Yeah, so this is, for us, we are the lowest out of Douglas and downtown, at significantly lower than the rest, and so it is hard for us to make improvements. We're working on trying to really make sure that we are working with the community as to what they would like to see from now on, and really just asking as a general group and really making sure that we are getting feedback from everyone in the community. And in order to make forward progress, we need money. So that is part of that, and just being that it has been at, that 35,000 for the last 5 years and no increase. We just thought it was probably a good time to kind of, not that anybody wants to, but it will help us to get more business grants out to businesses starting in our area and making it.
Just this past year, we had a huge increase in the grants that we did get to all the businesses.
We've had quite a few more new businesses coming in, which means that we need more grants to help them get started. And over the years, we've not had that, so it has been kind of it's a great thing, but we also need more money to support that.
Any other questions?
For the record, I want to be this as a sponsor. I thought this would have been coming from me in the first place, but
I apologize, that's my fault.
We talked about that actually, so that was an oversight, because that's what I pointed out when I approved the agenda. Okay, any other questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, we need a motion.
Second.
Moved by Alder Tate, seconded by Alder Pete. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. We appreciate all your hard work. I know how
Keep
hard
up the
y'all
good
work.
work, the hard work,
So,
make sure it's sustainable.
Yep.
I understand the old first 5-year rule is very relevant today, even more so.
All right, next item, please, Director Fisher.
Number 0805-22, communication sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services, requesting permission for the mayor and city clerk to enter into an MOU with RUSD to provide entry-level recreational activities for skills and drills, basketball style camp at the selected elementary schools in a 7v7 middle school football program at Horlick Field. Staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into an MOU with RUSD to provide entry-level recreation activities as listed. Fiscal note, the program budget is approximately $139,540. Expenditures will include salary, supplies, transportation, and will be fully reimbursed by RUSD at the end of the program. Jason Mars is here from Park and Recreation to speak on the item.
Thank you for having me. I have Matt Gomez also with me from the Chavez Center, the director that kind of orchestrated these partnerships. This will be last year or this past summer, we coordinated with RUSD to bring in our summer playground program to the summer school sites. That was very successful. So the extended learning office of RUSD came back to us and wanted us to do some more programming with them. Two of the programs that we're going to have is, first of all, the skills and drills that Kathleen said would be a basketball style camp in the elementary schools this spring. Matt would staff that with one of the basketball coaches, Andrea Miller from Horlick. And what we'd be doing is bringing in 2 days a week at different elementary schools this spring program for the elementary kids, learning the basics of basketball, skills and drills, and anything that comes with the camp style with that. And also for the middle schools, we started last year for the first time the 7-on-7 football for the high school football teams. This year, we're going to coordinate with the middle schools at Borlick Field in the spring to bring a 7-on-7 football for the middle schools. This would all be in collaboration with USD. Park and Rec would be running these programs with our staff and staff of some of the coaches from RUSD. So a total collaboration, no cost to us at all for the city. Just providing additional programming for Unified and for the kids in our area. So we're pretty excited about it. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
So what locations are, let's look at the MOU, what are we thinking?
We would be working with all the elementary schools for the skills and drills, I believe.
Like 13 or 14.
13 or 14 elementary schools. We
All right.
rotate schools on, I think it would be about a 2-week program at each school.
Oh, okay, all right.
So each of the schools would have an opportunity, they'd sign up through the extended learning at RUSD.
Mhm.
And then for the middle schools, we would be using all the middle schools for the 7-on-7 football. We would also be providing transportation for the kids from the schools to play at Borlick Field. So
Is that also are those also 2 programs that does seem longer?
that'll be I
7-on-7?
think that's gonna be a 6-week program, a 6-week program. And they'd be signing up through the school and we would have officials and kind of getting that basic of the middle school for that first try with football. So
Okay,
7-on-7 is kind of a big program throughout the state and nationwide now, kind of going to the football season.
so if there are people with kids who'd be interested in the program watching the live stream, for example, would they find out about these programs through our USD's website or our website or both? Like if they wanted to go look for it, I mean, I know I had kids in our USD, so the letters come home, but
Yeah, once the MOU goes through and everything goes in, and they'll be getting, most of the push out will be through the RUSD extended learning program, but everything should come home to the schools and the parents to be able to sign up for these programs.
okay, great. Any other questions? Elder B?
Yes, what about the charter schools that are part of RUSD, but of course they have their separate charter and what have you?
At this time, it would be just the Racine Unified Schools that would be included in this first go around, but that's not out of the realm of possibility in the future.
Okay.
Which 21st century is part of?
We are, I shouldn't have said
Oh,
that.
Okay, so 21st is, okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Matt.
who would we contact?
It would still go through the extended learning program, so
Okay.
Antonio Frank would push information out through that.
Alder West, do you have a question?
Yeah, I actually have 2 questions. So my first question will be addressed to either you, Mr. Gomez. Who did you mention that will be teaching the skills drills again?
Ambrio Miller will be one of the co-coordinators of the skills and drills. So she'll be kind of coming up with the agenda of what they'll be working on for all the skills and drills. So she'll probably have some of the coaches as well as some of the players involved as well.
So when you say some of the players, you talking like players that's in high school, or are you referring to ex-players?
I think ex-players, but there could be some of the high school team might be involved.
What we've done in the past is, we just have done with a basketball clinic now, so we kind of got like a little team of instructors, and they are comprised of coaches in the boys and girls program through Park Case for like St. Cats, and then they kind of bring on some of their current and former student athletes, and that's kind of how we branch out to assign instructors to each school site.
Okay, cool. And then the last question is, I saw that that IUSD will be refunding you at the end of the program. So is that like customary, or is that? I don't think I've ever heard where you running a program throughout the season and then they pay you in the end. So who's gonna take care of that expense prior to them refund?
We would be taking care of the expense and work with the finance department for that reimbursement, similar to what we did for the summer school program. So we have an account set up already for that RUSD programs, and then they reimburse us and keep track of all the expenses and hours and equipment, that would be needed, and then they'll reimburse us into those accounts.
Okay, is there a reason though why they reimburse at the end?
I'm not sure if it.
Yeah, Director Fisher, please.
I'm only asking because I would like to know.
Yeah.
No, it's a very good question, honestly. To be quite honest, because it's easier. For both the finance departments, it is much, much easier for something of, while this seems like a lot of money for the two organizations, it's just a lot of paperwork to do it multiple times during the program. So it's part of our agreement with RUSD generally that we will upfront it. We certainly could do something where maybe they pay half upfront, half at the end, something like that. I would not recommend anything more than that, or it does get very labor intensive for both agencies. Congrats to Parks and Rec for thinking of these things and these more creative relationships with our USD. We've had, I think this is our second or third one just recently. Really great programs, and we have a really great relationship with our USD relating to them. So,
Yeah, and I agree. I guess from my perspective, if I'm gonna provide a service, I would like to see that fronted in the beginning. Because they give us more inspiration to do bigger and better things versus waiting until the end. It almost seems like we're gonna see what you're gonna do and then pay that, So optics is everything, so that's why I'm only asking. But if that's the traditional way that, the city and RUSD normally handles the business, and that's fine, but I just want to know.
Like Kathleen said, this is the second one kind of within the year that we're going for, so that was kind of established for the first one, so that's
Okay.
it worked well for the summer.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
On the part.
I just have a comment. I just want to thank Jason and Mr. Gomez for last year with the 7-on-7 and the things you guys are doing in the community with the kids. And I'm really, really happy to see that it's getting down to some of the elementary schools, because I think when we start young, getting our kids involved in whether it's youth sports or anything, that it tends on sticking. We've had a heated summer, and we had a lot of stuff going on, and being in the community, working with kids. I always hear people saying there's nothing for our kids to do. So hopefully they'll take advantage of this and get their kids involved and information go out to them. So, congrats to you guys for being able to do this for a second year and keep the kids involved in sports. And then hopefully, sports and academics, that one day they could be proud players of Racine coming out of Racine. Thank you.
Thank you. And it did come, a lot of the programming we said with the elementary, middle school came from surveys with all the parents in RUSD, and this is one of the things they wanted to see more of. So starting in the elementary level, so we're doing exactly what the parents were asking for at RUSD, and then they came to us and we're kind of working together on trying to bring in more things. So that's.
And I also want to clarify just Bree Miller. So Bree Miller is she used to coach out at Case High School under Bob Booker. She was a girls basketball coach. She also coached for Horlick basketball when my daughter played at Horlick. So it's been some years in 16. So she's been around racing for a while, coaching a lot of girls basketball. So that's, they don't call her what her real name is. But
Amber.
I just call her Bree Miller.
Paul Rickey.
About how many teams do you anticipate being generated, or is it just however many you can make from 7-on-7 based on
I
size?
think each school, the goal is to have each middle school for 7-on-7 have a team, and then I don't know what the cap will be for the amount of players, but we'll hopefully get as many as we can possibly get to play, so they'll shuffle them in and out, so everybody gets the opportunity that signs up to play.
Is this flag or tackle or?
7-on-7 is more of a touch. They kind of, once you're touched, you're down, and then you go to the next set of downs.
Thank you.
Wow, okay. And, this is a question I'm sure is covered, but I know all of our staff have to go through training and wings training and approval and all those things. So players do too, right? Like if there's high school players or other players that are working with kids. they all have
Absolutely.
to go
Any staffing would go through the proper channels for background checks and anything, just like any, either our USD employee or our Park and Rec employee. So yes, we do run that on anybody that would be employed with programs.
Great. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, a motion.
to approve.
All right. Moved by Alder West, seconded by Alder Horton. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
item number 0818-22, communication sponsored by Alder Taft on behalf of the finance director, requesting permission to submit the presentation of the third quarter 2022 fiscal results and the September 2022 investment schedule. Staff recommendation is to receive and file fiscal note NA. I normally do this presentation each quarter. Would you prefer me go up to the podium or stay here? I don't, either one.
I think the podium is fine,
Perfect.
if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm looking at the, because you don't have anything on the screen right now, so yeah, this is. Would you prefer we view the summary or the extended version?
More of the summary. So
Okay.
attached, you will have let's take a look at the Q3 results to committee. That document that's attached to your agenda.
Yep.
So included on this is something that the committee sees each quarter that I present to you. This is our largest, City of Racine's largest operating fund that will go through, actually the two largest operating funds, the general fund as well as healthcare. When you're looking at this overview, the very first page goes through each one of the departments that are included within the general fund. When you're looking at this from a very high level, what you are looking for the Q3 is, are we within about that 75% spend down range? So a couple of highlights that I want to go through here, and you'll see it in almost every category in every department, is that the salary and fringe benefit line items are generally under that 75%. And that is because, and of course, I just spoke to all of you about this during the budget, we have vacant positions across the entire organization, not just public safety, but we have them in city development, we have them in health, we have them in finance. So we're seeing that throughout the whole organization. So you'll see many of the departments in that salary and fringe under that 75%. The health department in general, I do want to bring to your attention, you'll see their salary and fringe is about 41%. It's because many of their salaries are being covered by other grants in 2022 based on COVID. So we have grants through the state of Wisconsin, their funding has been moved over to grants for 2022. Still full budgeted for 2023, not knowing what grants will be available there. Also in the police and fire area, I just want to bring to your attention, particularly in the police department. So you'll see their salary and fringe on here at about 71, almost 72%. So they're just a little under that 75%. I do want to bring to your attention, I do anticipate that all of that salary and fringe will be fully spent, if not overexpended, by the end of the year, just because of overtime. So their overtime is way over budget already, which you would expect with all of the vacant positions, but I do anticipate it eating up all of that salary and fringe benefits. Couple of things that I see coming forward in the Q4, just to watch out for, and again, obviously I'll come back with Q4 results. As I talked about already, the overtime in the PD, judgment and claims most likely will be over budget, and we'll use up contingency to cover that in the judgment and claims area. One of those claims has already come through to the finance and personnel, but just a heads up on that for year end. The interdepartmental category in every department, the majority of what's there relates to fuel and services from the garage. I anticipate that being over in several of the departments because fuel costs are just running higher than what we had anticipated for 2022. Overall, for the end of the year, what I anticipate is actually the general fund will still be overall under budget, albeit slightly. I think it will be overall under budget, which is always a good thing for subsequent years and was anticipated when we built the 2023 budget for you guys. Moving on to the revenue page that starts with property taxes at the top, which is page 3 on this same document. Our revenues fluctuate a little bit, so don't always look as nice in that 75% category because the majority of our revenues, the first one being property tax, all of that is collected in the January, February, March timeframe. So in the very front half of the year, which is good. So you'll see that at 100%. But if you look under intergovernmental revenues, you'll see that one only at about 35%. And that's because the majority of our intergovernmental revenues, which I always talk about ad nauseum, is shared revenue from the state of Wisconsin, of which we do not receive until late November of each year. So basically, when you talk about the city playing the float, we cover the state of Wisconsin for the first 11 months of the year. And they give us our shared revenue in the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks of the year. Okay, so just to bring that to your attention, Couple of other things under other financing sources, there's a couple of things that come very late in the year. The pilot payment from the water utility comes very late in the year to us, so that's about 3.5 million. The rest of what's under there is what the Common Council anticipated to use in fund balance in the 2022 budget. Overall, I think revenues will come out to be somewhat positive, so a little bit higher than what we anticipated. Right now, interest income has really crept up, obviously. We're paying more on debt service interest, but we're earning more on our investments. So I do see that as a positive at the end of the year. So I do think we'll have positive results on the revenue side of the equation, albeit small. I think they'll be positive, which is a good thing.
Quick question. For you. Yep. So, is this a statewide thing? Shared revenue comes so late, and what is the rationale for that? Just out of curiosity, like.
Honestly, I can't tell you. It has always been that way.
Yeah.
I am certain that it is written in state statute in some way. If I had to guess, they're on a biennial budget, so it may have something to do with that. Their fiscal year end is June 30, so it's a little bit different fiscal year. So I'm sure it has something to do with that. It's also probably based on their own cash flows, right? So yeah, we get about 80 to 90% of our shared revenue piece in November, which everybody does.
Yes, just for clarification for the general public, again, constituents. Money in the budget that has been budgeted for a particular usage, if when it's under budget or not spent, I understand it's a part of the general fund, but can that money be pushed over here to some of these other areas like PD that are over budget?
Yes, that is a very good question. So if there are different areas that are way over budget, and think they're going to be over budget for whatever reason, we would come to you, both the department itself as well as me would come to you and ask for what's called a budget transfer or formal budget amendment. That usually would not happen until pretty late in the year, because we usually will say, this will run under, this will run over. So for example, in the police department, they'll be way under in their full-time salaries, but they're way over in their overtime. So I'm gonna kind of watch that, and I believe me, watch it pretty regularly. So I'm gonna kind of watch that and see whether it is gonna request a formal amendment. For an item like not to pick on poor attorneys, but like a judgment and claims. If we really start seeing that running high, which I'm watching that one pretty close to, we may have to come back to the Common Council for an amendment on that one as well. That would require a formal amendment. If it's something like salt costs more than we thought it was gonna cost, but we have other money that we didn't spend, that does not have to come back to you.
I do have another question looking in the future. Again, we're in this interest rate hike environment. If Powell knew what was going on, he went all kind of go down in history. Jerome Powell, he had to set a reserve. But the simple question is, in our budgets, are we factoring in the uncertainty, the risk of increased inflation or the fluctuation with inflation?
Very good question. In the 2023 budget, there is a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but there is certainly certain budgets that we have taken inflation into consideration, fuel being one of them, utilities being another one, large one that we took into consideration. Interest in debt service, which was particularly budgeted knowing that those rates were going to go up. So absolutely, those big areas we do, even salt, like anything we spend a lot of money on, we put extra in there knowing that inflation could affect us.
Thank you, great answer.
Any other questions? Okay, then a motion to receive and file would be in order at this time.
Move to approve.
Move to
What do you
receive
say?
move to receive and file by Alder Tate, seconded by Alder West. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Director Fisher. Okay. Next item, please.
Item number 0827-22, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason, recommending that the policy established by resolution 0749-21, September 21st, 2021, providing that fully vaccinated, non-represented city of Racine employees who test positive for COVID-19 be granted paid administrative leave during any required isolation period be terminated effective 11:59 PM, November 15th, 2022. Staff recommendation that the policy established by said resolution be terminated effective 11:59 PM, November 15th, 2022. Fiscal note is NA. Generally, Paul Bornholz, City Administrator, would have been here to speak on this item. He is under the weather tonight, so I have been voluntold to speak on the item. And I might need Lidika. So this was brought forward as the administration was talking a little bit about this policy. Again, we don't see near as many COVID cases as we had in the past. However, we are seeing it's just something that payroll had requested, saying, are we still doing this going forward? I talked to Director Bowersox today about it. She is supporting that this be terminated as well. From a management perspective, it is something that all of the managers also do, I believe, support. We've talked about it on senior leadership in several different areas. I don't know if Director Horton has anything specific she wants to say on it, anything. So to put you on the spot, sorry about that.
Nothing specific, but we do all agree it's no longer needed at this time because it's not used as much as it was in the past. So I'm in agreement with Director Bowersox and Kathy.
Okay, any questions for the director? Please proceed.
Yeah, Director Bowersox isn't here, but I guess my question would be, as it currently stands, the policy is focused around required isolation period. And to what extent does that still exist as far as policy for a required isolation period if someone tests positive? And I guess that would kind of determine my perspective on the necessity of keeping this in place or not. Who would be requiring that? And, what's the standard for requiring that?
Scott, do you have a better answer to that?
I do. So the mayor had a policy that said if you test positive, you have to quarantine, essentially what CDC says.
Right.
It's 5 days if you test positive. It doesn't necessarily mean you take sick time. It's that you can work from home if you're not ill. But that's essentially what, whatever CDC is, that's what we require.
So again, to question more for Dr. Bowersox, at what point, what does the CDC currently recommend in terms of required isolation? Because that will really determine my position on how to determine this, because it says required isolation is nothing. If you have no symptoms, then it would make sense to kind of eliminate this particular policy. But if there are some still standards out there, and we're still adhering to them, that I would want to take that into consideration in terms of the time off an employee has to take potentially.
Yeah. The CDC guidelines do change periodically. I feel more comfortable having Administrator Bowersox here to discuss this item more fully. So I would actually propose that we move to defer to the next finance and personnel meeting. I have some more questions. I need some more details. So do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So moved by myself, seconded by Alder West. Any discussion on the motion to defer?
I think, the last 2.5 years or so, we've had a pretty clear North Star in terms of how we manage a lot of the protocols, changes, and that is, if that is what the public health officials are recommending and defining, and that's what we're going to craft our internal policies and ordinances and as well as resolutions. And I think without having, that expert here kind of say, here's where it is, here's why it isn't there, here's why we would recommend it going in this particular direction.
Yeah.
I think that's just necessary as we adjust and phase out, I'll say that lightly, from the full-blown pandemic.
Yeah, I would reiterate that. I have, I understand that this is what Director Bowersox recommends, but I still think we should have the opportunity to ask clarifying questions and get some ideas. Alder Pete, you had a question?
Yes, I understand the proposal before us, but I also like clarification. Give you an example. I happen to be wearing this mask because I had what they call the flu or this so-called bug that's going around. Of course, I did get tested, et cetera, but again, had I, had a positive reaction, how does that affect this decision? You know, so would I been been required to work at home, or suppose I couldn't work? Just a few things that should be clarified.
Follow up on Alder Pete's point. I think our goal in general is to have policies in place that don't disincentivize people to making healthy choices and less risky choices for themselves or their coworkers. So I think we just want to talk through this one a little bit more to make sure that whatever we have in place is reflective of, to Alder Pete's point, we don't want, employees potentially, test positive and may keep that to themselves because they're worried about, using their sick time. And especially because we have it structured right now for, if you've done the necessary things to reduce and mitigate your risk, which is, being fully vaccinated. And, for whatever reason you still get it, I mean, perhaps we need to update it for boosters or whatever, if we do choose to keep this in place. But I think that's something I really consider in terms of not, disincentivizing folks from making the healthiest choice for themselves or their coworkers based on whatever resources we have in place for them.
Indeed. So we are currently, we have a motion and a second on the floor to defer this item to the next finance meeting, or the earliest time where Director Bowersox can come and chat with us more about it. So any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion will be deferred. Next item, please.
Item number 0828-22, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason requesting that the Racine ordinances, chapter 62, article 2C, section 62-60A be repealed and recreated to move the equity officer from the office of the mayor to the Human Resources Department, and that the ordinance 0014-22 be approved. Staff recommendation that the Racine ordinance, chapter 62, article 2C, section 62-60A be repealed and recreated to move the equity officer from the office of the mayor to the Human Resources Department, and that the ordinance 0014-22 be approved. Fiscal note, the fiscal effect of moving the equity officer from the office of the mayor to the Human Resources Department was approved by the Common Council in the City of Racine 2023 approved budget. If I could just speak on this item briefly. This was a bit of an oversight when we gave everybody the packet for the 2023 budget. Really, as we were talking through the budget, it was one of those things where it should have been one of the ordinances included with the budget document. It was an oversight. We had talked about this within the budget document. The position itself is listed on the position page under Human Resources for the equity officer. And this is the formality of changing the ordinance to read that position would be under Human Resources. Director Horton is here as well to speak on this item if you would so choose.
Sure, please proceed.
The only question I would have is when we talk about recreating, we mean it's pretty much transposing the literal language that established the position in the first place and removing mayor's office to essentially Human Resources Office and no other amendments to that ordinance, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I will move to approve.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Which brings us to our next item, which is in fact a closed session item. So we are going to. Okay, so anybody who is, I thank you all for coming, and we are going to proceed with the procedure for closed session items. All right, so I'm going to read this little blurb first. It is intended that the Finance and Personnel Committee will convene a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851G to confer with legal counsel concerning strategy with respect to litigation in which the city Racine is or is likely to become involved. So, yes, we can read the item now in a moment. Okay.
Item number 0829-22, communication sponsored by Alder Taft. On behalf of the city attorney, requesting the city attorney present the proposed settlement in the Office of Workers' Compensation hearing case DeLander Rogers and the City of Racine Workers' WC claim number 2021-028-028. Staff recommendation at this point is NA, fiscal note NA.
Move to enter closed session.
Second.
Moved by Alder Tate, seconded by Alder Pete. We would like a roll call, please.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder West,
He's
is
excused.
excused. Alder Pete,
Aye.
Alder Horton,
Aye.
Alder Tate the second.
Aye.
That completes roll call to go into closed session. Just
Okay,
give me a moment and I'll stop the video.
thank you.
And I know Attorney Christensen there.
Yeah, I gotta stop the video first. Second.
I know it's noted on the agenda to return to open session